And welcome everyone again to the CILC Community of Learning Program. We are so happy to be here with you today and are looking forward to spending some time with our Omaha Zoo and Aquarium with our friend teacher Holly, who stopped by to help us learn live about penguins. So, teacher Holly, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank
We can't wait to
you.
dive in with you.
Awesome. All right, let's come over so you can say hi. Hello, everyone. Sounds like we're coming from all over North America. So, welcome. My name is Holly, and I am coming to you live from Omaha's Henry Dorley Zoo and Aquarium. And today I am with my favorite animals in our entire zoo. I am with our penguins. I actually started out my zoo career working here as a penguin keeper. So, really excited to be back here today to talk to you about them. That chat function is going to be the perfect way if you have a question, something you want to know, or maybe I ask you a question and you would like to answer that question. Go ahead and type those into the chat, and we will try to answer as many questions as we can today. All right, so we are going to go over and meet our penguins. If you joined us early, you might have gotten a little bit of a sneak preview of our penguins. Now, we are pretty lucky here at Omaha Zoo. We have three of the cold weather species of penguins. There are 18 different kinds of penguins in the world, and we have three of them. And when you look at the penguins, you're going to notice some differences. So, right now, I want you to be a scientist. I want you to use your powers of observation. Take a look at our penguins as we look at them and see what are some things you notice about them. What are some observations? Are they all this? Do they all look the same? Do they look kind of different? Maybe something they're doing? Oh, yes, some of them have yellow on them. That's a good observation. Someone said, "Oh, they do not look alike." They're all cute. Yes, none of them are flying. I agree, they are all cute. We can see some of our penguins have been really busy this morning. We've got some water spots on our Mm. Yes, some of them have yellow on their chest, yellow on their head. Those are great observations. So we have three different species, like I said. Our smallest penguins are actually being kind of hard to see right now. And part of that is because it is nesting season. Our smallest species of penguin are the rock hoppers. So these little tiny one, like that's on top of that embankment there. Let's see if I can find one closer up. Our rock hopper penguins are about 22 inches tall. They've got yellow on the back or on their eyes, kind of makes them look like they've got little angry eyes. There's two back here in a nest. They're going to weigh about 6 pounds. And surrounding them, back here in our little rookery, are our little bit bigger penguins, the Gen 2 penguins. Our Gen 2 penguins are the ones that are all black and white. They have no yellow feathers on them. They stand about 2 feet tall. And one of the ways I can tell them apart too is those white feathers on their head. I think that kind of looks like they're wearing earmuffs or a crown. And then someone noticed in the front, yes, we do have these large penguins, are king penguins. Yeah, That's a great observation. Yes, some do have longer necks. Yeah, none of them are swimming. And actually, let's see if we can see into the water. Most of them are not swimming right now, but we do have a couple that are in the water. And that's just the time of day. Our penguins got fed recently. So a lot of times after you eat, you get a little tired. So a lot of our penguins are out of the water right now. You can see we have a couple of those rockhopper penguins that are swimming and a couple of the gentoo penguins that are swimming. Oh, yes. Do they get along? That's a great question because they all do live together at our zoo here, and they do get along pretty well. So they like to be with their same kind. So if you notice here, we have got all of our Gentoo penguins that are kind of hanging out together in one area. And we have our rock hoppers that are kind of towards the back, a little more difficult to see today. And our king penguins, they all kind of gravitate. They like to be near each other. We do not have emperor penguins. These penguins that we have here are actually found just on the outside and the skirts and the islands around Antarctica. So they are going to live where it's really, it gets kind of warm in the summer. And right now, for our penguins, it is getting to their spring, almost to their summer. So all penguins in the world, they're going to be found south of the equator. They're all found in the southern hemisphere. Right now, we are all coming from places that are getting ready for winter. We're in late fall, getting ready for that early winter. And the penguins are on the opposite schedule. For them, it is spring, late spring, getting ready for summer. So all of these penguins in here, all of the rockhoppers and the gentoos that we see laying down in these rocky areas are actually sitting on nests, which is pretty cool. And this one here, we get the water to focus, looks like has something maybe in it. So they're all building nests right now. We use those power of observations. What do you notice about their nest? What are their nests made out of? Yeah, their their nest are right now they're made out of rocks. So that's something that you think about with birds making nests out of rocks, but penguins, that's what they use what's around. And for the gentoo penguins and the rockhoppers, um, they will build their nest out of whatever's around. Oh, good, some good questions. So, all of our penguins were actually born either at our zoo or at another zoo or facility. None of our penguins right now came from the wild. So, because of that, we don't have to get them to adapt or we don't change their schedule to match our hemisphere because they um, they were never actually in the wild, but it's just healthy for animals to try to mimic the wild, what they would, their natural settings as much as possible. So we want to give them kind of that same time frame. So we will adjust our light settings, the temperature settings, how much snow is in this exhibit based on the time of the year. So right now they're getting a lot more light, daylight, which is pretty cool. I see another good question here. How do we tell them apart? That's a great question. Um, do you think our keepers can tell all these penguins apart? We've got about 30 gentoos, 30 rockhoppers, and 15 king penguins. And how do you think our keepers tell them apart? Because they look pretty similar, but there is a special way for us to tell them apart. Oh, good guess. They're marking. Now, some animals, they do tell them apart by their markings, but penguin markings, there's not a lot of markings on them. If you look closely, you'll notice our penguins are wearing something special. Yes, on their wings, the bands on the wings. So all of the penguins' bands um, are going to tell us some information about them. The first thing it's going to tell us is if they're a boy or a girl. Looking at a penguin, you can't tell if they're a boy or a girl. Like lions, the boys have the manes, the girls don't. Some birds, like peacocks, the boys have really colorful feathers, and the girls are more brown. But here, with penguins, can't really tell. So we have to get them DNA tested through their feathers. And once we know if they're a boy or a girl, the girls will get a white armband, flipper band, wing band, and the boys get black. And that's how the keepers will be able to look at them, tell them apart. You'll also notice on these bands are colors. There's some colored beans, and those tell us even more information. All of our penguins, all of our animals actually in the zoo, get a number when they are born or hatched. And that number lets us tell them apart from all of the others. And it's kind of like a color by number. If you've ever done a color by number, um, red might mean one, like one, yellow might mean two. So all of those colors are going to tell the keepers who's who. And yes, so we got lots of good questions. Um, how old are they? So these penguins in here are all sorts of ages. Our oldest penguins are in their mid 30s, and the youngest are just turning a year this year. And yes, that some of them do actually have names. The keepers know the names and can tell them apart by that. And it's split about equal boys and girls. So about half of them are boys, half of them are girls. But the penguins don't know their names. They're not going to come if you call their name. Yeah, what's a good question? What is their lifespan? So in the wild, penguins are lucky if they get to live to 10 or 15 years old. That's it. Why do you think penguins in the wild only live to 10 or 15 years? Penguins here at our zoo can live 30, sometimes even 40 years old. What might be the reason for that? Oh, maybe it's getting harder for them to find their food. Yes, that can be a problem. Yeah, predators. Predators are something that would want to eat a penguin. Yeah, orcas, seals. And it all depends on where the penguins are living. Some penguins live where it's warm, so even things like sharks might be um, a predator, or land animals like cats and dogs in South Africa can be predators to the black-footed penguin. So it all just depends. But here at our zoo, our penguins are going to get food every day. They get fed twice a day. And now I mentioned before, we did just miss our penguin feeding, but luckily we did get that, some video of that, so we can show you what that looks like. And I think this is pretty neat because most keepers, they don't get to go in and feed their animals by hand. But that's how we do it for our penguins. So twice a day, our keepers will get buckets and pails of fish, and they're going to bring them in and they're going to be feeding the penguins. You'll notice they feed them one at a time. All of our fish that the penguins are eating, they come to us frozen. We're about as far away from an ocean as you can get here in Omaha, Nebraska. Um, but that fish is restaurant quality. It is fish that we could eat. And so once the fish comes in frozen, the keepers will thaw it. They will add some vitamins to a fish, and then every single penguin will get a vitamin fish and then as many other fish as they want. And if you watch, the penguins are eating those fish head first. So they're going to swallow their food whole because they don't have teeth. They aren't going to chew it up. So as the penguins are hungry, they're coming up. Our keeper is offering them the fish. And then once the penguin has eaten as many fish as they want, the keeper will tell someone he's working with, hey, this penguin ate their vitamin fish and three other fish. And we keep track. And the keepers are able to tell that person which penguin is eating what because of those numbers on that band. You can see them just swallow that whole. And you can see this is actually one of our students here at the zoo. We do have a school on zoo grounds, so sometimes our students get to help us out, and our student is recording what the keepers are saying. And I had a good question about how do they eat if when they're on their nest, and that's a great question. So in the wild, Gen 2 penguins and rockhopper penguins, both the moms and actually all of our penguins, the king penguins too, the moms and dads take turns caring for the eggs. And so when mom would sit on the nest for a while with the egg or the baby or the chick, and when mom gets hungry, dad will take over, mom will go to the ocean, catch some food, and they take turns. Now, because we don't throw the food in the water, they're not catching their own food. Our keepers will come to the penguin moms and dads, and they will offer them food. Yeah, it's a great question. Can the penguins harm you? Not a lot, not it's kind of like pinching. So if you look at their beaks, they're really nice and strong, and they're able to grab a hold of you and kind of pinch you. But that's about it. So it feels like a bad pinch. That's one of the reasons why we were able to go in with them. But yep, the keepers will bring them their food. But one thing that our keepers don't do is they don't have to feed the baby penguin. Who do you think feeds a baby penguin? Yeah, the parents are going to feed them. Both moms and dads will take turns feeding them. So yeah, the parents will feed them. Um, do they have to sit there on the eggs? They do have to sit on the eggs. So even though it's summertime, um, in the southern hemisphere, it's still pretty cold, and the penguins, they are able to keep their eggs warm by sitting on their nest. Yeah, good question. We have this little separate area over here. And this is used sometimes when we have um, teenage penguins that are they haven't got their waterproof feathers all the way in. They're still, but mom and dad aren't taking care of them. So there's a stage where our keepers would put the chicks in there. That way they don't go into the water too early, and the keepers will work on feeding them. But we can also use it if there's a penguin that's getting um, medicine medicine for any reason. And so, not sure why this one here is separated, but that's usually what it does. Yeah, we don't actually have to keep the babies warm because that is mom and dad's job. Now, if there was an egg we were worried about, we can incubate the eggs. We do have a room here at our zoo where we can do that. But um, but we like the parents to raise them. Yes, do we? It's a great question. Do we keep all the babies or do we remove some of the eggs for population control? Um, we we do let them have any good viable eggs. A lot of times penguins will lay eggs that don't have any babies in it, just like chickens do. So a lot of times the eggs they lay won't even have a chick. Um, but if there was a if we the early on our keepers will we call candling the eggs to see if everything's the baby's growing okay, and as long as they're doing okay, we'll usually let them have it. But it just depends on the year. Some years we have lots of babies, some years we have less. We had 10 this past year, and the year before that I think we had one. Oh, our penguins. That's a good question about the bird flu. The bird flu is something that we have to worry about here at the zoo because they are a bird. Um, our penguins, because they live at the zoo, they're not going to get the bird flu um, amongst themselves. Anytime we get a new penguin from another facility, another zoo, they're going to go through a quarantine to make sure they're healthy. So, how they would get the bird flu is if we, as the keepers, were wearing our shoes outside. We maybe stepped in some bird poop from a bird that had bird flu, a wild bird, and we were to take that in. So before you go into any exhibits with our birds, we actually do foot baths. And so there's a cleaning solution that we step in. And then with these penguins too, the keepers will put on boots. And those boots are only worn at the in with the aquarium, in with penguins. And that's how we keep our penguins safe. Yes. What um can we pet the penguins? Now, penguins are a wild animal. They are not pets. So occasionally our keepers will have to maybe pick them up or move them. Um, but it's the penguins don't just come up to get petted. That's a good question. Yeah, we want them to stay as wild as possible. And we've had lots of good questions about what they eat and how they swim in the water. And since our penguins are on land with our eggs, I do want to show you what it looks like when our penguins are swimming, because it is pretty cool to watch our penguins swim underwater. So these are a lot of gentoos that are swimming around, and some kings, a little bit of everyone in here. And someone noticed that penguins are a little awkward on land. They kind of waddle to and fro. They're not the best at moving very quickly unless they're sliding on their bellies. But what do we think? Let's be scientists again. Let's watch these penguins swimming underwater. Are our penguins slow on in the water or are they fast? Yeah, they are fast. They're swimming very fast. The penguin with the different colored armband, that is a chick. So that was one of last year's Gen 2 chicks, and the chicks will get a different colored band until we know if they're a boy or a girl. Yeah, penguins, their adaptations are for underwater. They can hold their breath for up to 8 minutes. So longer than most humans. I can't hold my breath that long, but there are some human free divers who can hold their breath just as long as the penguins. Now, these Gen 2 penguins are super, super speedy. They're the fastest swimming penguins that we know about, and they can swim 22 miles an hour. That is 3 times faster than Michael Phelps. So they're really able to cruise underwater. Now, I used a big word a minute ago. I used adaptation. Anyone know what that word means? What is an adaptation? What is an adaptation? Ooh, yes, good. They're adapting to their surroundings, something that's helping them survive. So, what are some things that help penguins survive in the wild, survive in the water? Something that you can involve the have. Oh, yes. For our friends in Canada, thank you for converting that to the metric system for us. That's about 35 kilometers an hour. Oh, their feathers. Yeah, their feathers help them be in the water. Um, Penguins have two types of feathers. They have down feathers that are close to their skin, and then they have the more slick part of their feather that is for waterproofing. So it's almost like two feathers in one. They also have more feathers than birds that can fly. Penguins are going to have 80 to 90 feathers per square inch. So if you look at your palm of your hand and you were to divide it into fours, they're going to have over 100 feathers in just that little area. Oh, their feet. Yes. Their feet do help them. What are they? See if they're using their feet? They're using their feet to actually steer as they go underwater. They do not have gills. So they are a bird, they have lungs, and they have to hold their breath just like we do. Something that also helps these penguins is you might notice there's a lot of bubbles coming off their backs. Those bubbles are air trapped under their feathers. When we go look at our penguins that are on land here in a minute, you'll notice some of them are like ruffling their feathers. And they do that for a couple of reasons. They can be applying a waterproofing oil on them, but it also gets air trapped under their feathers. And when they dive in to that water, they can push the air out of their feathers and go really fast, kind of like a turbo speed. Their eyes, their eyesight is about the same both on land and in the water. They do see very well, and they need to be able to catch their food. And as far as food, it's going to depend on the type of penguin. Some penguins are going to eat a lot of squid. Some are going to eat krill. Fish is a big part of their diets. Um, so they're going to eat all sorts of things. Another adaptation they have to the wild is their color. If you look at the penguin color, it is going to help them blend in to their environment. So look at this king penguin here. He's being perfect and letting us talk about his color because if you were a predator, if you were a sea lion or a seal and you were swimming underneath of them and you look up, you're going to see that white and yellow belly that looks like the sun. And if you're a predator who swims above them, say if there's one that's been swimming. When they come to the top of the water, you'll notice their backs are black and difficult to see. Is everyone still able to hear me okay?
Yep, you
No.
sound great.
Perfect. All right, my mic just did something funny on me. Perfect. So yes, penguins have more adaptations to the water than they do on land, which is why they're going to move a little more awkwardly on land. And now we had a good question earlier about if penguins play, and that's a really good question. Penguins do explore, and that kind of starts as babies. Like all young animals, babies like to explore. With penguins, a lot of times they explore with their mouth, and we did get a really, we don't have any babies that are right now that I know of, or anyone who is big enough, but we had Gentoo chicks last year who were pretty cute. And I'm going to show you what they look like because they like to explore the world with their beaks. So this is one of those Gentoo penguins, chicks, and you'll notice that's a mom that's on the nest. And this baby here is about a month old. That's it. So penguin eggs can take anywhere from um, just over 30 days, like for our rockhoppers, to about 2 months to hatch, depending on the species of penguin. Um, for the average here is about 5 weeks. And so for the first couple of months, they are going to stay in the nest. About a month old, they are going to be about half the size of their parents. And they're going to be starting to sit up. They're going to be starting to um, grab onto things that come near them. Now, even though this baby grabs the rocks and kind of moves them around, they're not going to eat the rocks because that would be kind of silly. But yeah, sometimes it does look like the penguins are trying to fly when they flap their wings like that. And that can actually help them cool off if they're too hot from swimming. It can help them dry off if they're wet when they get out of the water. But animals in general, they're very curious. They want to explore. And so we like to give our animals the opportunity to see something new every day. How many of you would be bored if you did the same thing every day? Maybe you played with the same toy every single day. Would that get kind of boring? Yeah, if every day was the same, that would be kind of boring. So here, part of our keeper's job is to come up with things for our penguins to do, things for them to explore, and things that our penguins might do in the wild. And so we call that for our penguins enrichment. They're going to get a new type of enrichment every day. I'm going to show you one of my favorite penguin enrichments. It's called a fish trap enrichment. And for this, our keepers want to get our penguins to act like they would be in the wild. They want them to practice holding their breath um, while they're in the water. They want them to try to fish. But since we don't have any live fish, we only have frozen fish, the keepers are going to put that fish into this milk crate and then they drop it to the bottom of the water. And this is something new, something different for our penguins. And yet they're still using those same skills that they would in the wild. They're holding their breath. They're having to catch their food. They're having to practice swallowing that food underwater. And they even have to make sure that the other penguins don't steal or take their fish once they get it out of there. The type of fish that's in this box is called a capelin, and that is the Gen 2's absolute favorite kind of penguin or type of fish. So Gen 2 penguins love capelin. Now today's enrichment, they have a jug, I think that has some sort of something in it that they were rolling around on the other side. My cameras just don't quite see them. Can't get to that. Um, but some days it's not food that we give them. So some days our keepers come up with this is kind of like a wind chime, and it's got different sea creature shapes on it and some different that's fire hose that's on there. And penguins are pretty curious, so they're checking it out. They're seeing what is going on. And why do we do this? So just like um every our days are not the same every day. In the wild, an animal's day is not the same every single day. They're going to do something different every day. And so we want to make sure that our penguins have the ability to do something different. And that's what we call enrichment. Other good questions. Will we ever release them? Now, all of our penguins at our zoo are part of what we call a population assurance colony. So zoos, we don't just exist to show people animals. We want to teach them about animals, but we also want to help do some good. And our rockhopper penguins are actually considered threatened right now in the wild. So their population is going down. And so our goal is to make sure we have healthy penguins here. So someday, if we needed to release them back into the wild, we could. And that is something that's actually being done with other species of penguins. The African black-footed penguins have been raised in other facilities and even reintroduced, or we call it rewild, to the wild. And we do that here, not with our penguins, but we do it with several different species of amphibians, so frogs and toads. And we're working on some salamanders right now too, and even some insects. So yeah, zoos do actually try to put a lot of animals back into the wild. Occasionally, we do step in and rescue animals. We've had a couple rescued penguins here before. We had a king penguin that showed up in Africa, um, far away from their home, back when I was a keeper. And he couldn't go back to the wild, so he ended up coming to our zoo. So occasionally we do get rescues. Um, but most of the time, the animals are going to go back. You can see one of our four, we call them snow machines here, in the United States is on, um, giving our king penguin some snow here. Now I know these are snow makers. I know in Canada, snow machines are very different. Yeah, so our that king penguin did pass away from old age, so we don't still have him. Yep, and the three species of penguin we have are actually all visible right here. We've got the little rock hoppers that are hopping in the back, the gentoo off to the side with that white headband on the head, and then we have our king penguin here in the middle. Penguins, you know what? Our penguins cannot build snowmans, but occasionally our keepers will have some fun and build them some snow sculptures. Um, However, this snow that's in here with them, it's kind of like an icy or a slushy. So if you've ever had one of those shaved ice, that's kind of the texture. So it's not usually the best for building things out of. So occasionally, if we get snow here, they can take that in as enrichment. You wanna send some of your snow down here to us? We have yet to have snow, this season here in Nebraska, so I think most of us would like to hold off. You can definitely keep that s
Teacher Holly, are you still there? It looks like we lost your microphone for a moment. Teacher Holly?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, there you are.
Perfect.
Perfect.
I don't know why he does that sometimes.
That's
Yes, so
okay.
this yep, the snow is coming from the ceiling, from the 4 snow machines, and it'll pile up, and the keepers will come and shovel it. But yeah, 12 inches, that would be a lot of snow for Nebraska at one time. Our schools probably be closed for days, but we do have a lot of animals here that do love the snow. Now, these animals are incredible and they're very fun to see. They're fun to watch. How many of you think it would be fun to be a zookeeper and spend time with animals or helping animals? Oh, I thought there might be a few in this group. And yes, it is quite a wonderful job um, to work with animals and penguins. But it's not just all. Um, oh, you get fired for hugging too many of them. Yep, that might be a problem. Because most of the time, if our keepers aren't feeding them or shoveling snow, they're having to clean up after them. Because penguins are a bird, and birds are they're kind of dirty. They make lots of messes. Um, Birds don't have the same muscles we do. Um, and so they can't really control when they have to go to the bathroom. And they go to the bathroom a lot. And it is with penguins, it's extra special because their poop can shoot projectile from their bodies, and they're gonna poop at least every 10 minutes. Yep, even the babies poop. And all that pooping makes a lot of work and a lot. Yes, penguin poop is similar and that it is their pee and poop together. I know it's kind of gross. Um, but penguin poop does get a special name. We call it guano. And the African black-footed penguins, they actually build their nests um historically under feet of guano. Helps keep their eggs protected, keeps them nice and cool. Um, So it gets hard. The penguin poop, if we were to let it pile up, it's going to get really hard. And so the biggest part of our keepers a day, the hardest part I thought as a keeper, is that they start every day by having to clean up after all those penguins. So if we have around 100 penguins and they all poop about every 10 minutes, it's going to add up to a lot of penguin poop. And so this is what our keepers have to do when they come in. They're going to come in, they melt the snow, and then they are going to get down on their hands and their knees and they're going to scrub with those little brushes to make sure all of that poop is coming off. And while they're cleaning, penguins are might be pecking them. They might be pooping still while they're doing it. So yeah, they're going to spend a lot of time. And this also helps keep our penguins nice and healthy. It's not good for animals or people to be around a lot of waste. So it's really important. It's a very important part of the job. Not the funnest, but important. All right, everyone, we're getting to almost the end of our time together. So I want to give you the opportunity to open it up for any last minute questions, anything you want to know about penguins that we haven't got to answer yet. What are you interested in learning about? If you have any of your last minute questions, you can go ahead and type those in. Um, Otherwise, I know since we enjoy penguins and we enjoy animals, um, what are some things you might be able to do to help penguins? Oh, yes, penguins can kind of squabble over their nesting site. In the wild, a lot of times penguins will use the same nest site over and over. Um, and now you notice here, these gentoos are kind of squabbling over their nest. This gentoo pair is trying to build their nest on a hill here, but they don't have any rocks, and so they are trying. And it's actually the girl, the mom's trying to steal some rocks from the other penguin nest so she can have her own nest. We keep the water clean. We have a filter system here at the zoo that will help keep it clean. And then a couple times a month too, our divers will go in and they will have to clean it. What do they do if they take each other's rock? Well, they will take rocks back and forth. This is something that they will do throughout the whole nesting season. Um, so penguins are kind of funny. They want to have the biggest, the best, the nicest nest. And so they will um, occasionally throughout the day, they will go over to the other penguins and try to claim rocks and take each other's rocks. Our oldest penguin right now is in their late 30s. We've had one that lived into their late 40s not too long ago. You can see on penguin that's getting upset. This is called the open mouth. When they do that, it's called open mouth gaping. And it's just kind of a warning. Yeah, so the world's smallest species of penguin is called a little blue penguin or a fairy penguin. They are found in Australia. So penguins are my favorite here at the zoo. Just because I got to work, really enjoyed working with them when I worked with them. Um, they all have different personalities, and they're fun to watch. Yeah, the Yeah, you can see the egg there. Um, the biggest penguin in the world is going to be the emperors. So the emperors are going to be about 6 to 8 inches taller than the king penguins. So the king penguins get up to 3 feet, and the emperors are going to get a little bit bigger. And so you can see, yes, this penguin parent here. I think this might actually be dad who's sitting on, based on the band color. Yep, dad is defending the egg and his nest, or trying to defend his nest while sitting on the egg because he's trying. Two penguins right now are currently trying to take rocks from his nest. Yeah, most penguins that build nests can have up to 2 eggs in a season, or 2 eggs at a time. Most of the time, they'll have one chick that they're able to raise more than the easier than the others. Um, Now, king penguins and emperor penguins, because they carry their eggs on their feet, they're only going to have one egg at a time, and that's just because it's easier. And actually, it looks like that one might have two right now. Yep, 2 eggs right there. My favorite species of penguin. Oh gosh, I would probably say I really like both little blue penguins and the African black-footed penguins. They're just a lot of fun. Out of all of these, I don't know that I could pick a favorite. Do people eat penguin eggs? Yes, that actually used to be a problem for penguins. Now, luckily, because they are a seabird, they are protected by a Seabird Act. And so all penguin are supposed to be protected from people eating them or collecting them for research. Um, And so that's not usually the biggest problem that they're facing in the wild. It's really that for the black-footed penguins, they've lost their place um, to build their nest. It's getting too warm, and so they have to choose between going and cooling off or staying with their eggs. Little blue penguins in Australia, they have a lot of land predators that can bother them. And then as things are changing, fish populations, their food might be going up or down, might be going to new places. Um, some of the ice that's around Antarctica is breaking up, so that can be a problem. Yeah, why do they have tail feathers? Um, that is a great question. So their tail is really going to help them when they're swimming. They do kind of like scratch themselves or scratch people. Um, they're going to like kind of ruffle their feathers. They especially will scratch when they're molting. That's something we haven't talked about yet, but some of our, let's see if I can find one of our, see if I can find our, we've got a couple of our king penguins that are still molting. Um, so once a year, penguins are going to lose all their feathers at once, which process called, we call it catastrophic molting. And during that time, they'll kind of scratch themselves to get all these extra feathers off. So you can see he looks kind of funny right now. He's got all of those feathers that he's losing. When penguins are doing this molting, they'll do it before nesting season. So they're going to eat a lot of food before they molt because they can't swim. Takes them about a week to go through that full process. And yep, you'll see they're spend a lot of times kind of scratching themselves. Sometimes you'll see them rubbing against things to get, do they scratch people? So they don't really, um, their feet do have nails on their feet to help with being on the ice and snow. Um, but no, they really can't use them to scratch. If they're going to tell you, if they try to tell you or trying to move you away, they communicate a lot with their mouth, so they might with each other and with us. So they're more likely to bite or peck, but not really scratch. Yeah, it is fun to see them on the eggs, isn't it? And see here, this is one of the king penguins cleaning off their feathers, cleaning off her feathers. Oh, someone did send me a question. Penguins what happens when they are catching the fish if they swallow the water? Um, that's a great question because we humans, we can't drink salt water. Salt water is not good. Penguins, for us, but penguins, they have a special adaptation. They have glands by their eyes that will get rid of the salt. So if the penguins swallow some of that salt water when they're catching the fish, not a big deal. They'll just get rid of that extra salt right out through that gland by their eyes. And so, yes, they can actually drink salt water. That was a great question. All right, friends, we're down to the last minute. Any last minute thing you would like to know? One of our rock hoppers actually up front coming out of the water. Salt water does not sting the penguin's eyes. That's a great question. Well, see, you can see our rock hopper penguin close enough. You can see their little feathers by their eyes. Yeah, so it is kind of like they cry out salt. So the water, they'll keep the water and they just get rid of that excess salt. Yeah, great questions. Yep, got to see all three of our kinds of penguins all at one time right now. That's a pretty cool way to end. But I want to say thank you all for joining us here today from the Omaha's Henry Dorley Zoo and Aquarium. Hopefully, if you ever find yourself in the United States or in the middle of the United States, you come and join us to say hi. Yes, thank you, everyone. I know it's
Yay!
2 for some of you. It's only 11, only 11 for some of us. So that's the beauty of being starting at different time zones.
Yes, the beauty of time travel.
Yes.
And we want to remind everyone that if you're not able to make it to on a physical trip, you can actually have a wonderful virtual
Yeah.
program with cameras and microphones on. And there are so many
Yeah.
different topics that you can jump into. I actually just dropped a link into our chat space. If you haven't checked out all of the
Yes.
great programs that teacher Holly and her amazing group do, please, please, please go check it out. You can
Yes.
schedule that program at the day and time of your choice. We also want to
Absolutely.
remind you that next week we are back with Community of Learning. We are here Tuesday through Thursday. We're really excited. We will have our final CILC celebration for our 30th year. We're going to be learning what it's like to live on the International Space Center with Space Center Houston.
Fun.
We're also going to next week dive into the ocean to learn more about the mysteries of the deep dark sea. And then finally, we're going to end our week next week where we are going to be learning about the holidays through plants. So I am going to go ahead. Ooh, I just actually dropped the wrong thing. So I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to actually copy the right thing here and drop the link for next week's sign up into the chat, which is correct now. So go ahead, click that
Yeah.
link. We'll meet back at the same time we met today, wherever it is you find yourself, and we'll be able to learn all next week. We appreciate you
Awesome.
so much, Teacher Holly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Yes.
for your
Thank you so
time and
much.
for letting us learn along with you today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Have a
everyone.